Welcome back to the channel and the Central Asian country of Kyrgyzstan. I've come to the delightful small city of Karakol near the east end of Lake Issyk-Kul, one of the world's largest and deepest high-altitude lakes. Karakol is a town of about 85,000 people with a colorful history, starting as a garrison town under the Russian tzars and later as home to a military research center under the Soviets. This town is about 5,600 feet elevation, set amidst rolling hills and open meadows between the lake and towering snow-capped peaks. In spring and summer, Karakol is a getaway for those seeking relief from the heat, and in winter, it's a haven for snow skiers and other winter sports enthusiasts.
This is Oscar, my new Karakol friend who never met a translation app he didn't like, and who spirits me around town in his impressive ride, a classic 1982 Russian Lada. He and his wife Jebek own the Emir guest house where I'm staying, named for their youngest son. To stay there is to feel like family.
Salam, salam.
This morning, Oscar is taking me a few miles outside town to the weekly animal market, a tradition in these parts. That's Emir in the back, along with fellow guest house friends Ramon and Magdalena from Spain.
Sheep, cows, goats, what else?
Horses.
Horses. Horses for Bishmarek. Right? Bishmarek, yes. Horse meat. Or later in the morning, do people make a bid or an offer and people have an opportunity to compete against each other to buy?
Yes.
Okay, that's the way it works. So this market is, as you might expect, a tradition. It happens only once a week on Sunday mornings. I sort of expected to see a fairgrounds kind of operation with people selling food and that sort of thing, since there's such a crowd of people gathered here. But no, it's pretty much strictly business. People who are here intent on buying or selling an animal. No concessions around. It's just a lot of trucks to pick up and deliver. People who may be interested in a certain cow don't necessarily show it. They're just more or less glancing casually. Like right now, all I see is a lot of people milling around and looking at the cows. But
Obviously want to buy it.
so any cow is available to buy at any moment.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. Passing through to where the horses are. Given the fact that this one directly in front of me, I don't necessarily want to walk behind it. I suppose you have to take a chance at some point. One thing you have to do here is obviously watch your step.
Among the horses, it's part market, part rodeo. If this were a car dealership, I suppose you'd call it a test drive.
You have to check the ribs. If you can touch the ribs, it means that it's not good. But if you can't touch the ribs because of the fat, it means that it's good. And also you can touch the top of the sheep.
You speak English?
No.
What is your name? Sim. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Are these your sheep?
No? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Some of the animals seem resigned to their parting. Others not so much. With Kyrgyz cowboys and ranchers, ethnic Russians, not to mention Uzbeks and Kazakhs, Karakol defies cultural stereotypes.
Karakol's history with Russians goes back to the 1800s, after Tsarist Russia acquired the region around Lake Issyk-Kul from China by treaty. That helps explain why, among other groups living here, are Uyghurs, who migrated from Western China as a result of persecution, and another Muslim-oriented ethnic group, the Dungans, who also fled China. I'm here at Karakol's one and only Dungan mosque, built entirely of wood and without nails in the early 1900s, that serves the Dungan community here. This is not at all what you normally think of when you think of Islamic architecture. It has a decidedly Chinese aura about it. Instead of a minaret, this mosque has a wooden pagoda. And the colors of the mosque represent different Dungan cultural concepts. Red for protection against evil spirits, yellow to contribute to prosperity, and green to symbolize happiness. There are several thousand Dungans living in Karakol. Their ancestors fled southwest China across the rugged mountains during the so-called Dungan Rebellion in the 1870s. Many of them died of starvation and bitter cold. And for those who made it into what was then Imperial Russia, Karakol was among their first stops.
You can go almost anywhere in town, even to Lake Issyk-Kul, for the equivalent of 50 cents US, as long as you don't mind piling into a crowded marshrutka.
I found out that full doesn't mean that every seat is taken. It means that every seat is taken, and then there's standing room. So I managed a seat near the back of this sardine-like van, but there are at least 6 people in the aisle in front of me standing. And fortunately, it's only a short distance to the lakefront. At least I hope so.
The marshrutka stops on the highway, and you walk the last quarter mile to find, of all things, a beach.
This is really a lovely body of water. It's roughly 113 miles long and 37 miles wide, and it almost appears as though it's an inland sea rather than a large high elevation lake. During Soviet times, there were a lot of sanatoriums or health spas built along the north shoreline. Many of them are run down or abandoned. The villages that sprung up nearby where they were are pretty rustic. On the drive from Bishkek to get to Karakol, we drove the north shore, and the lake is beautiful, but the towns look a bit well-worn, shall we say. This lake is an environmental treasure and has been recognized as such. A Chinese scholar, Zhang, rhapsodized about it in his classic travelogue of the 7th century. The lake has also attracted attention of a different kind. Just a few miles from where I'm walking on the shoreline, the Soviets set up a Navy testing facility during World War II to develop submarine and torpedo technology. Unlike in the oceans, torpedoes fired in the lake can more easily be recovered for study. And that, by the way, is not just a thing of the past. The secret facility here has been revived by Russia in recent years under a lease with Kyrgyzstan's government.
Karakol is not so much a solo destination as it is a base for the spectacular region that surrounds it, with a long menu of places worth exploring. One such place is the tiny hamlet that in English translates as Seven Bulls, about an hour's drive from town. As you get close to it, you realize Seven Bulls has a lot more animals than people. The village takes its name from the red rock formations that hover above it, said to resemble bulls. Personally, I don't see it, but you gotta love the name.
There's cattle that are roaming really verdant pastures behind this village. I think they're mainly for tourists these days. You can sign on for a stay in a yurt. Besides these cliffs and the mountains just up ahead, you have this roaring whitewater river coming down through the middle of it all.
No matter how small, most every town in Kyrgyzstan has a park, most often built in Soviet times, that doubles as a memorial to those who fought the Nazis in World War II. This village is no exception, with its statue of a Kyrgyz soldier.
Because on the village floor here, I just checked my altitude map, and it's at 6,700 feet. This beautiful lane leads back into an old sanatorium built here again during Soviet times. Just a glorious day here. Puffy clouds after a brief rain shower earlier this morning.
The town itself is nothing out of the ordinary. A ranch community where you can look up at the stars at night without interference from streetlights, which of course is part of its charm. Isolated in a region of Kyrgyzstan tucked against its borders with Kazakhstan and China. A place where, even in the middle of the day, animals get the right of way.